Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Coffee Break with Fleetus Poston. Today, I'd like to dive into a topic I'm going to title The Pattern Breaker: Frontier AI versus Social Engineering using Predictive Identity Analytics to protect your C suite. So, think about this with me. What if you could stop a cyber attack before the threat actor ever hits send? Not detect it, not respond to it. Actually, stop it. That's not science fiction anymore. That's where we're headed. And this morning, over coffee, we're going to talk about why your C suite is the most targeted surface within inside of your organization, how frontier AI just made that attack exponentially worse, and what a new class of defense called predictive identity analytics is doing to fight back. So go grab your cup of coffee or hot tea and let's dive into it. So, Fleetus, why is the C suite considered the crown jewel? So, here's the question we're sitting with this morning. Why do threat actors actually go after your CEO, the CFO, or even the CISO, the people at the top? It's simple. They have authority, access, and trust. A CFO can wire funds. Your CEO can authorize system access. And a CISO can greenlight a vendor. These are three people whose word actually carries weight and whose identity, if successfully impersonated, unlocks almost everything within inside of an organization. Now, social engineering has been around forever. Phishing, pretexting, business email compromise, these aren't new, but here is what's new. Frontier AI has completely changed the economics of deception. We're talking about large language models that can replicate writing styles with uncanny accuracy after reading just a select few emails. We're talking about voice cloning that requires as little as 15 seconds of audio and sometimes less. And that audio might already be on YouTube from last year's earnings call. We're talking about deepfake videos capable of running in almost real time on a video conference. The cost to craft a hyper convincing social engineering attack against your chief resource officer, it used to require nation states. Today, it might cost you and I less than $20 and a couple hours on an afternoon. That's the threat landscape we're actually operating in. And reactive security, waiting for something to go wrong and then investigating, is no longer sufficient. So let's dive into what I would like to label the autonomy of an AI driven attack. What's a synthetic impersonation actually look like? Let me walk you through a realistic attack scenario. This isn't hypothetical. Composites of these attacks already exist in the wild. So it's Tuesday morning. Your CFO gets a WhatsApp message. It's a voice note from what sounds like the CEO. The tone is right, the phrasing's right, even the slight accent is right. The message that they have just got is related to an urgent acquisition deal that's closing today. And she needs to initiate a wire transfer outside of normal approval chains. I'll explain everything in the board meeting Thursday. Don't loop in legal just yet. The voice, it's cloned from a podcast interview that was 6 months ago. Or even consider this. Your VP of engineering receives an email, reads perfectly, references an ongoing internal project by name, using the exact same signature block and writing cadence of your CISO. It asked him to grant temporary elevated access to a third-party vendor for a security audit. The email, it was generated by an LLM trained on scraped corporate communications. So here's what makes these attacks so dangerous. They're not triggering your legacy filters. They don't have malicious links. They don't come from known bad domains. They are socially valid. They weaponize trust rather than technical exploits. And that's where traditional security tooling starts to show its age. You can't signature match your way out of a convincing synthetic voice. You need a different kind of intelligence. which goes to the paradigm shift that you've heard me talk about on my YouTube shorts, some of my recent AMAs, and let's now dive into that paradigm shift. I've mentioned it once, I think even twice already this morning, the predictive identity analytics. Reading the invisible telemetry of your identity. So what does this defense actually look like? As I said, the concept is called predictive identity analytics. And the core insight is that every executive has an identity fingerprint that extends far beyond their username and password. Think about it with me. Your CEO logs in from roughly the same geographics. She sends emails in a consistent rhythm, usually morning, sometimes evening, late nights before earnings, almost never Sunday afternoon. Her communication style has a measurable pattern. Her device posture is consistent. The systems she accesses follows predictable workflows. This behavior is telemetry, the invisible texture of how someone actually operates. It creates a dynamic identity baseline. And when someone deviates from that baseline, even subtly, that deviation becomes a signal for your organization. Predictive identity analytics platforms ingest this telemetry continuously. We're talking about login times and locations, keystroke dynamics, communication cadences, access patterns across your systems, even the sequence and velocity of API calls from an integrated productivity tool. The predictive part is the key differentiator from traditional user entity behavior analytics. Think about this with me. Instead of alerting when something anonymously has already happened, the systems are modeling forward. They're asking, given the pattern of signals in the past 72 hours, what's the probability that the next interaction, this wire transfer, this access grant, this vendor approval, is being made by the authentic executive, not a synthetic proxy? It shifts your posture from detect and respond to predict and prevent. I'll say that again. It shifts the posture from detect and respond to predict and prevent. So again, this is where governance becomes the automation shield. You're turning your high-level policy into real-time protection. I recently gave a talk on tactical GRC for the Continuum Con. You can watch it on my channel. Look into how tactical GRC plays into what we're talking about right now. Now, this is where it gets operationally interesting for IT and security leaders. One of the chronic gaps in executive security is the governance execution divide. The board passes a policy that says high-value transactions require multi-factor authorization, that is, and out-of-band verification. That's a great policy, but in practice, people route around friction. Executives call IT to bypass MFA because they're traveling. Approval chains get shortcuts because the CEO simply said so. Predictive identity analytics will help you close this gap, not by adding friction to every interaction, but by calibrating friction based on real-time risk scoring. Again, check out my talk for the Continuum Con around the value of tactical GRC. So here's how it works in practice. When a request hits a high-risk threshold, say a wire authorization request coming in on a channel that doesn't match the executive's typical communication pattern, at an unusual hour, for an amount that deviates from historical norms, the system doesn't just log it, it now intercedes. That might look like an automated hold that requires an out-of-band voice verification. It might trigger a quiet alert to the CISO's on-call team. It might pause the workflow and route it through an elevated approval chain, all automatically. The governance isn't waiting for humans to remember the policy. The analytics engine is the governance layer. It's running in real time. It's invisible in the background of your executive's workflows. This is what we mean when we say transform high-level governance into an automated protective shield. So, Fleetus, what does this mean for me? Here's your morning takeaway. 3 steps ahead of a synthetic imposture. I'm going to bring it home for you right now. If you're a CISO, a security architect, or you're advising executive leadership on their security posture, here are the 3 things to take away from this morning's conversation. The first is accept that your threat model for the CISO and the fellow C-suite has fundamentally changed. The question is no longer just can someone steal their credentials? It's can someone become them? Voice, video, writing style, all of it now within reach of a motivated threat actor. Your controls need to reflect this reality today. Second, your identity perimeter is behavioral, not binary. Passwords plus MFA is table stakes, not a ceiling. The richer your behavioral baseline on your executives, communication patterns, their device postures, their workflow rhythms, the more signal you have to detect an anomaly before the danger is actually done to your organization. Thirdly, governance and analytics need to be fused, not parallel. Policies that sit in PDFs don't stop deepfakes. Only policies that matter at the speed of a synthetic attack are the ones that are embedded in automated device logic, in systems that are already sitting between your executives and the actions they're thinking about actually taking. The attackers are using frontier AI to manufacture trust. The defenders who win are the ones who use frontier models to model trust. So what does this mean? You'll model trust to understand it deeply enough that they can spot when something is wrong before a human clicks, before the CFO wires money or the CISO approves the next vendor transaction. This is the pattern breaker. So I hope everyone enjoyed this topic. Thank you for spending just a little bit of your Saturday morning with me. This topic is moving fast with new deepfake capabilities, new analytical platforms coming out, new regulatory pressure around executive identity risk. So if you want to keep up, research, tune in, make sure that you take the time to read about what's coming out. Anthropic is dropping a new model called Fable. Investigate it. If you like this, please drop some questions. Share your real-world scenarios in the comments. I read them, and I'll build future episodes and content around them. So until next time, remember, stay curious, be a little skeptical, and make sure you're protecting your people. Again, stay safe and stay secure, everyone.